Hey, Mike, I'm so excited to have you back on 286 Sunshine. You're going to be hosting a series of shows. You've got some candidates that you want to talk about. It is election time.
Thank you, Sabrina Watson and 286 Sunshine. This is Mike Cartwright, your host, and we're broadcasting here live, Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida. And yes, we have 11 Supervisor of Election candidates from the free state of Florida, and we're going to be introducing each and every one of them to you separately in a show that I'll be hosting and going county by county.
What's special about these 11 candidates?
Each one of them is challenging an incumbent because they want to bring back election integrity. They want to have accountability and transparency. Many of these candidates are within the same party as the incumbent, but they think that there's a problem and they want to bring back accountability and transparency. Hey, Mike Cartwright from Save America with Election Integrity. We want to thank you for joining us here from Tampa, Hillsborough County, free state of Florida. And we want to thank also our sponsor, 286 Sunshine, and its creator, Sabrina Watson. Follow her and 286sunshine.com. Thank you so much for joining us. We're featuring 13 Florida Supervisor of Election candidate patriots who are trying to bring back election integrity with accountability and transparency in our elections. And today we have another special guest with us, and he is from Collier County. And let me tell you, he has a most impressive resume and bio. Bachelor of Science in Finance and Master of Science degree in Statistics and Operations Research. 4 decades in the information technology field in the private sector in big databases, data analysis, business intelligence and security. Information technology entrepreneur and inventor. Co-founder and Chief Information Officer of CoStar Group, who engineered and developed the nation's first industry-accepted computerized commercial real estate multiple listing service, and creating a new American service workforce industry. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Supervisor of Election candidate, Mr. Dave Schaffel. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you having me on today.
We're so grateful to have you here today, and we would like to hear more about you and your campaign there in Collier County, please.
Yeah, I'm not a politician at all, Mike. I like so many others, I was dumbfounded by what happened in the 2020 election. And I decided that I couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore. And so I decided that I was going to find out what in the heck went wrong in 2020. The before, during, and after were entirely nonsensical to me. So with a technology background, really specializing in databases, and I have a master's in statistics, I thought this is the kind of thing I could dig my teeth into and try and find out what really happened. And I did that for a year, and there was other great patriots around the state and around the country who are actually doing the same thing with similar backgrounds, and we networked, and then I decided I need to get actually involved politically. I've been always politically astute, but I never was politically involved. I joined my local County Republican Party, the Republican Executive Committee of Collier County, and learned that they had an election integrity subcommittee within the REC, and I immediately joined and got even deeper. I shared a lot of the findings that I had and other folks in that little group had, and we continued on our journey. I gave many presentations in front of our executive committee. We have over 300 members in Collier County, and I want to also mention that Our local Republican party here in Collier County is now an America First Republican Party. We have done a great job. Our board and our chairs done a great job of getting new members who have been vetted and are Trump Republicans, and we have pushed out the old establishment. They're getting smaller and smaller. They may be getting louder and louder. It's only because they're losing control. And I'm proud to be in the Republican Party of Collier County as an America First rec. So, and then as part of the rec, the party, I developed many relationships across many of these people, a vast majority of them. And folks asked me if I would run for this office. The incumbent, who was elevated to the position by Ron DeSantis after her predecessor resigned after I think 20 or 24 years in the office. And I might add, she's really she's not exactly what we would call a Republican. She's a Republican only because in our county, you better be a Republican if you want any chance to win an election. So, and then I have another opponent as well, but the party wasn't happy with the two candidates. So they approached me to run, and it's my first dip into politics, and it's been quite an experience, Mike.
Wait a minute. I don't want you to leave this rec conversation about how much the GOP and the people of Collier County wanted and asked and encouraged you to run for supervisor election. I understand that you and your supporters have done something unprecedented within your rec. Would you explain that to me? I understand that here in the primary, your rec has endorsed you as their candidate. Is that right?
That's correct. Now, the Republican Party of Florida, and I think the Republican Party nationwide, does not encourage the local counties to endorse in the primaries.
That's correct. That's what I understood.
But it's not prohibited, and you could read the bylaws. It's up to the county. Now, there are some financial penalties when it comes to getting a piece of the qualifying fees, for example, that would come down. So you forfeit maybe a few $1,000s, right? But our chair and our board, which is America First board, they are committed to making sure that that America First candidates are the one who is going to be on that ballot, be on the ballot in the primary, make sure there is one, and then get them to the general election.
Well, what did it take to get you to be endorsed most unprecedented in the primary as their candidate? Was that 50% plus one? Is that what it took? 50% plus one vote?
No, it doesn't. The bylaws from the RPOF state that you have to have 2/3, 66.7% of the votes. So you have to have 2 out of every 3, which means in our rec, we've got over 300 members. I think we had about 260 who were there to vote, and I got the votes to become the endorsed candidate, and that is especially difficult when you have 3 candidates in the race.
3 candidates in the race, and you had to get 66% or 2/3 of the members of your rec to endorse you, and they've done that, and unprecedented in the primary. You're going in as the county favorite of the GOP. Congratulations. That's phenomenal. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mike. And I just want to give credit also to our board and our chair for having the courage and the spine to do that, because they took a lot of heat from many of the establishment members of our organization and many Republicans outside the organization. They took some heat from the RPOF, but they have backbone, and I give them all kinds of credit for following through with what they did.
Well, I hope they watch this podcast and they hear from us, Save America with Election Integrity and 2867 Sunshine, our applause, our accolades, congratulations for putting America first. God bless them. That's great.
Yeah, and I just put up the slide that they put together shortly thereafter. I am the endorsed candidate for Supervisor of Elections in Collier County, and I'll mention also we also got our 2 school board candidates endorsed as well. They got the threshold, and they are pro family school board members. So we're doing a great job getting the endorsed candidates and promoting them in the primary. So again, I give our board and our rec tremendous credit for standing by our America First candidates.
Congratulations. And I like those slides and the images you have. You know, I'm a big advocate. A picture says 1,000 words, and I understand that you have a lot of other images and information you want to share with us. So take it away, Dave.
Yes, and I have quite a few endorsements. I have some national endorsements. The ones I love having the national endorsements, but I have the local endorsements are actually for a race like this are extremely important. We have a gentleman down here, and some of your viewers may know who he is. He's Alfie Oakes. He's the most popular and most successful businessman in Collier County. He owns he's actually a farmer who is a tremendous businessman, has opened up a tremendous supermarket called Seed to Table, which is actually more than just a supermarket. It actually is a restaurant, and at night it becomes a nightclub as well. It's a phenomenal place. It's a place where when you come to Naples, everyone wants to go. So not many people want to go to a supermarket when they come to town. This is the supermarket people want to go. It's a destination. And he has also endorsed me. He's actually our state committeeman as well. He is one of the he is as America First of a human being as I've ever met. Patriot, loves his country, is very close with Michael Flynn and Mike Lindell and Roger Stone and the whole crew over in Mar-a-Lago. He is a tremendous human being. I also have the endorsements of my committeeman. I'm sorry, my commissioner in my district, as well as Douglas Frank, who's an election integrity expert, Ann Vandersteel. We got the whole 9 yards of endorsements, but I'm particularly proud of my local endorsements.
Well, that's pretty impressive. Michael Flynn, Mike Lindell, Roger Stone, nationally recognized figures, and amongst all those others, congratulations. That's a great lineup of endorsements.
Thank you so much. And this is just another slide. We're just showing, again, this is Alfie Oakes right here. He's our man here in Collier County. I'm there with George Papadopoulos, who also he was very much involved in the Russia collusion hoax, as you know. He's endorsed me as well. There, of course, we have Roger Stone and Carrie Lake. She did, we didn't have a tremendous amount of time to talk. We talked for probably 5 or 10 minutes. Didn't endorse me at the time. I'm sure she would have, much later. I saw her months and months ago. She's tremendous as well. She's just a great human being. So these are the kind of people who I've met and have gotten to know. What I'd like to do now is just give you kind of an idea of Collier County and it's kind of its demographics. We're a county in Southwest Florida. The biggest city here is Naples. Very, very wealthy county down here. A lot of money down here. A lot of big homes. We're kind of I would say we're kind of the Boca Raton of the west coast of Florida. It's just a very high per capita income. A lot of retired people here with a lot of money. And fortunately, we blow away the Democrats here. The Democrats are a non-factor in this county. As you can see, it's almost 3-to-1 over Democrats. In fact, non-affiliated voters far outnumber Democrats here in this county. And these are registered voters in Collier County. So out of 400,000 residents, we have 259,000 registered voters. But don't let the Republican 139 make you believe that they're all America First people. We do have establishment people still here. The city of Naples is still an establishment town. Fortunately, it's only a town of 20,000. The suburbs make up the majority of our county, And we are a Trump county here. We may be the reddest of the red counties in the state of Florida. What I'd like to do now, Mike, if you'd like, we could start shifting into some election integrity issues that I'm actually very concerned about and I'm campaigning on. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, I want to hear it. You've got the floor, and great job. I really like your presentation. Keep going.
Thank you. The one issue that I found as I've been in this campaign for probably 10 months now, the issue that really hits home with my constituents is the problem of non-citizens, and it affects voting because of the ease in which a non-citizen can find themselves on their voter roll, on our voter rolls, and many times unwittingly find themselves on the voter rolls. And I believe it's done purposely to insert these folks onto the voter rolls. I believe that the crisis at the southern border is the plan of our adversaries to pollute our voter rolls with non-citizens and then associate them with mail-in ballots. That's the toxic combination of our elections that now in 2024. And I think it's the toxic potion of which our adversaries are going to look to try and take the presidential election in 24.
I'd like to share with you, and I want to applaud you for bringing up the point about the non-citizens. And I heard you make reference to the southwest border, and you and I well know that's not the only border crisis area. Actually, all 50 states are under invasion by non-citizens. And as you and I both well agree that it's not about the topic of migration, we believe that legal migration is healthy for our country and our communities, but that's the important topic, buzzword right there, legal versus illegal. So we encourage migration, but we want it to be done legal. And I appreciate that you are pointing out that, you know, having non-citizens somehow or another involved in the integrity of our elections, and particularly in reference to what you're going to expound more on, the vote by mail, which seems to be a sticking point, an area of concern that you're going to tell us about how this is relevant, particularly to the vote by mail, and how it can basically negate your vote, so that your vote may not be counted as a legal citizen because someone as a non-citizen somehow or another exercise some right they do not have to vote. Please tell us more.
And I believe it's a civil rights issue, to be perfectly honest with you. You or I having our vote canceled by a non-citizen, to me, is a civil rights violation. But we can talk about that on another occasion. But I'm going to go a little bit more into why this is a problem with our election system. This came from a tweet that I put out. We have a governor in this state who, you know, I like the man. I think he's a good governor, but when it comes to the election space, he's totally misguided. Whether it's purposely or he's naive, I don't know. They constantly spew this nonsense that Florida's the gold standard for elections. Well, you know, if you're the tallest guy in a room of 50 dwarfs, what does it matter, right? That's where we are right now. I mean, no states are gold standard. Maybe they're the rust standard. You know, we have likely over 2 million non-citizens here in the state of Florida now, and you know, I know after the 21 census there were 1.6 million. You can see it down here on my chart. And that's only after 21. You can imagine how many we have now. The border crisis really picked up after 21. We know that this administration has been flying non-citizens, not just into the country, so they don't even have to trek across the border, but then they get them in the country and they're flying to states all over the country, trying to purposely put them in places politically where it would be advantageous to them. and they are flying hundreds of thousands here to the state of Florida. So we know that number is much higher than 1.6 million. We know from data from the DMV that we have 800,000 non-citizens have been issued driver's licenses between 2021 and the first quarter of 24. We know 700,000 non-citizens have applied for social services. Those two areas are the avenues in which a non-citizen can find themselves being able to register to vote, and then eventually find themselves on our voter roll.
So I think that's important and worth repeating. I want to make sure I articulate it right. Non-citizens being able to obtain driver's license and or Florida DLs. And then also you had mentioned, I believe, Social Security and or
social services. Yeah, social services.
Social services. But with these identifications, somehow or another, finding a way to vote, but illegally. Because
let me tell you how it's happening, Mike. Under Florida law, documented non-citizens are eligible for a driver's license. So a documented non-citizen would be a person with a green card. It would be a person with a court date. It could, and you know as well as I, some of these court dates are decade, 12, 13 years out in the future, but they have the paperwork, right? They have an asylum claim. And then under Florida law, there's 3 or 4 other carve-outs for non-citizens. So that's how they obtain a driver's license. On the social services side, if you don't have a driver's license, you go over there, and many of these folks will end up in social services on food stamps and other subsistence programs. And they are handed social security cards when they come to the company. They have a number, and as long as they have that number, they register to vote at the social service agencies, even in Florida, because they get matching funds or partial funds for the federal government, so they must be offered the ability to register. On the driver's license side, they take their driver's license, they walk into our local election office, or they use a third-party NGO organization that collects voter registrations, which are legal under Florida law as long as you've been approved by the state of Florida. And we have some very nefarious organizations doing that and are getting non-citizens on the rolls willingly. And that's another way that they do that. The laws are good, Mike. We have our Constitution, the state of Florida, Article 6, Section 2 says only citizens can vote in our elections. Florida statutes are very good. It states clearly that non-citizens cannot vote. The problem is there is no enforcement of the law. So I've explained how they obtain a driver's license, social services. They're offered to register to vote. There's a checkbox on there. Are you a citizen? Many of these people don't know what they're doing. They check the box, and after that, you're on the honor system. If you check the box, boom, you're going to be on the voter roll, because nobody up in Tallahassee is checking, even though under Florida law, it's the job of the Secretary of State to assure that our voter rolls are clean. And there's a statute that says it's the job of our Supervisor of Elections in each of our counties to make sure our voter rolls are clean. Our local, at least in Collier County, our Supervisor of Elections says there's nothing she can do because she has to get that information from her boss in Tallahassee, the Secretary of State. And then you watch the Supervisor of Election in front of the Florida committee, the Florida legislature claim, when asked, there's nothing he can do about it. Yeah, the federal government deals with the problem. So they're basically tossing the football around, and we're going in circles, and no one's doing anything about anything on this issue. But the bottom line is this information is available in the Department of Motor Vehicles, and our elections officials are not obtaining that information, even though our statute says that the local SOE can ask for that information, and if asked, the DMV has to provide that information. And I just want to point out that we have our judicial system here in the state of Florida, and in our counties, we have a clerk of the courts who's also a constitutional officer. Our judges are very, very serious about making sure that non-citizens are not jurors, because if they allow that, their case will be thrown out when that's discovered. So they're very, very serious. Guess what? Our clerk of the courts gets the information from the DMV because the judges are serious. Let me ask you, Mike, why do they get it on the judicial side, and why can't we get it on the election side? What is going on? I would say there's something nefarious going on, that they don't want the information. They want bloated voter rolls. And it's one of the reasons that I want to win this election, because I want to know the answer to that. Not only will and it really doesn't matter what the answer is, that's going to be my number one priority to get that information so we can
Tell us more, Dave, please.
Yeah, I'm going to continue on to talk some more about the non-citizen issue. And what we have here is a resolution that I presented to our Republican Executive Committee way back at our April meeting. And this reminded our supervisor about our constitutional amendment only allowing citizens to vote, plus the other statutes to that effect, plus the fact that we have 1.5 million non-citizens from Florida, and then just asking her which statute allows to please go ask the Department of Motor Vehicles to provide her with citizenship information so that she can clean our voter rolls. Well, where are we now, Mike? We're recording this in August, early August. What's that? 4 months? It's been 4 months, and we have crickets here. She has not responded to the request. Why wouldn't she respond to the request? Well,
what do you mean hasn't responded? You got a reply. I received it. You got a phone call. You got a text message, an email. What do you mean you didn't get a reply?
Well, we asked her to respond to us in writing back to the chair of our party, of our local Republican Party, within 30 days. So we expect a reply by early May. We still have not gotten a reply. And remember, she says she's a Republican. So you would expect her to reply to the Republican chair of the party in the county. No, she has not responded, and it doesn't appear she intends to respond.
Wait a minute. Am I understanding this? 4 months later, from early May now to early August, you made a formal, written, documented, and I assume certified return receipt letter.
Yes.
To your Collier County Supervisor of Election resolution that you passed, and I'd like to hear maybe more about that resolution, to your SOE to verify citizenship, to help make sure we have legal citizens voting. And what was the response?
Well, I'll point out it was virtually unanimous. It was several 250 folks said yay. And by the way, down here at the bottom, that's the signature of our chair of our Republican Party, John Mayo. He's our chair of the party. And again, no response. And that's where we stand on this. So what I take from this is that it appears she's not serious about the issue. Okay, so that's what we take from this. Now, I'm gonna step to the next step, where I've been in a campaign where I have been alerting the citizenship in my campaign of this problem of non-citizens on our voter rolls. It's been so effective that her office has been getting lots and lots of calls. Do we have a problem on our voter rolls? Well, she decided, because of all of the questions, she decided to put out this response on her social media, the government social media site. She says the Collier County Supervisor of Elections does not have a crisis of non-citizens inundating our Collier County voter rolls. Well, you know what we did? We did a public records request. Simply, can you please provide us with a list of all of the registered voters that you have removed from the voter rolls from the beginning of 23 through June of 24? She did comply. We got that list. In 2023, there was about 19,000 folks who were removed. Many of them were removed because of statutes that require the SOE to remove folks who don't respond to mailings. There's statutes like that. But what we were very interested in is how many removed because they're non-citizens. And in this file, it tells you the reason for removal. Here's what we found, Mike. In 2023, a grand total of 5 non-citizens were removed from the Collier County voter rolls. In 2024, 2. So what she's telling us is in 18 months, they've removed 7. Well, she's also said that she removes roll of non-citizens from the clerk of the courts who actually provides that information once they've been disqualified. So what I can assume here is maybe that's where these 7 come from that because that appears to be the only thing she's doing for non-citizens. So I gave you the numbers. At 1.5 million non-citizens in the state, 800,000 with a driver's license, 700,000 Social Security. Collier County is an above average county in population where we've got 400,000, 250,000 registered voters. I would think, just out of logic, we would probably have what, several hundred, maybe thousands on our voter roll if you just look at those numbers. So I believe we have probable cause here that she is not doing her job in cleaning our voter rolls and taking non-citizens off of there.
So let me repeat that. In the periods of 2023 and 2024, I understand that was just over a year and a half. There was 5 and 2 non-citizens removed from the voter rolls only 7 out of that very large population of voters that you do have there in Collier County. That's amazing that so few were removed.
And you can't say, well, Dave, where'd you get the data? Well, when they asked me that, I said, I got it from her.
Yes.
She gave me the data.
Yeah.
So I'm not making this stuff up, Mike.
And I want to make sure that we get to your mentioning of these public records requests, FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. I'd like to see if you have more information later on in your presentation about how difficult or what obstacles that you're trying to get, which are supposed to be public records for we, the people, that shows the accountability and transparency. If we would get these elected officials to just show us and prove to us that our elections are not fraudulent or they're not negligent, then we wouldn't be doing what we're having to do to try and bring back accountability and transparency. So hopefully you'll have that here coming up.
Yes, and I'll tell you, and this was the GOP Election Integrity Committee of Collier County that filed this public records request. And I'll tell you, when we got the files back, we were actually very pleasantly surprised because I can't tell you how many times they say no. And we said, okay, this is the smoking gun. This is the evidence. So I give her credit. She incriminated herself in not telling the truth, and we've proved it right here. One of the other things I want to talk about as far as voter rolls are concerned is the technology side of it. We've seen in Florida, not in Collier County, at least yet, systematic changes to batches of voter records. We had a situation in Lake County, Florida, which is just north of the Orlando area, where we had an entire street on one side of the street flip from, I think it was 12th Street to a fictitious street called Red Belly Road. I don't know how they came up with the name, but there is no such thing as Red Belly Road. Well, that created non-deliverable mail, vote by mail ballots. And of course, those could be harvested. And so what's the rationale for this happening? And the thing that really piqued our interest is and this happened right before an election.
Hold on, wait a minute. I'm sorry to interrupt. I apologize. I'm already befuddled. I want to make sure I understand that. I'm looking at your image. I'm listening. I'm following you. Red Belly Road, there is no such place. You can't get there from here. In Lake County, Florida, you're showing an incident where some fictitious name was created for what was supposed to be known as 12th Street. And now the Lake County SOE has this fictitious Red Belly Road. Now, red, I don't know, is that supposed to designate something possibly related to Republican? Please tell me what they found out about it, because this sounds like a problem that we're having throughout our state. You're saying this came in a public records request from Lake County?
Well, this came through some great data analysts, private citizens who are doing this work. We have folks that are actually taking the voter rolls, which are publicly available information. You can go to your SOE office and request them. It's a spreadsheet. And what we have been doing is we've been taking them over certain intervals, let's say once a month. And then what we do is we compare each voter and look for suspicious changes in these data elements. And the gentleman, and his name is Chris Jersky, he's a phenomenal analyst of this stuff. He's an expert on address matching. He's the one who found this through comparing voter rolls from month to month in his analysis of data changes in voter rolls. And he said, wow, this voter ID used to be on 12th Street. That person is now on Red Belly Road. Looked at another voter ID, the same thing happened. And there was many voters on 12th Street that were flipped. So it's not just a onesie. This is in batch. So
it's showing up
yes,
on the voter rolls for Lake County. I assume Chris Jersky is a Lake County citizen. Maybe that's why he was interested, maybe not. But nobody went out and changed the signs on 12th Street in Claremont, Florida. It's only in the Supervisors of Election voter rolls for Lake County. They've created this fictitious Red Belly Road.
that's right. And the reason that you see this card is that he found, because Chris went out and actually prospected, canvassed these streets to get some more information. And one of the residents, because of the name, which is marked out here, the postman, the citizen said, recognized the name and actually delivered the mail to that person. And she was dumbfounded that this happened to her. In fact, I don't think she even requested a vote by mail ballot. This is identity theft.
So wait a minute, I'm looking at Red Belly Road. I'm looking in the top right corner and it says party affiliation, REP, Republican. I was trying to tie in Red Belly Road and Republican, and you're saying this is an actual photograph of a document from the Lake County SOE to this fictitious Red Belly Road, and one of the postal people recognized that name and knew, well, that was 12th Street. This is very alarming to me.
Yes, the person recognized the name, and according to this individual who Chris talked to as he was out getting more information, said that the postman just delivered it to her because he recognized the name, and she never requested a vote by mail ballot. And it never was delivered. It was never delivered to her. It's just it's a fictitious street. She had no idea what Chris was talking about when she first went there. This is the kind of stuff that can happen. So the moral of this story is that our technologies are not secure. We don't know whether this was done by somebody on the inside of the Lake County Supervisor of Elections office. We don't know if it happened to somebody in Tallahassee, somebody out in the United States, or somebody in mainland China. We have no idea. We don't know who did this, but this is clearly a systematic batch update that was done by a database or computer system that did this. So these are the kinds of risks that we take when we introduce technology into elections.
Wow.
So I've talked quite a bit about voter rolls. We talked about the non-citizen issue. We talked about how technology security issues can affect our voter rolls. Now what I'm going to talk about is, let's talk a little about our tabulators. Tabulators are the devices that actually count your votes. So you fill out a ballot on paper in Florida, you fill in the ovals, you're done, you go over to a scanner and you put it into what's called a tabulator. The name of the company that manufactures these tabulators in most of Florida is a company called ES&S. They're the biggest tabulation company in the United States. Most people have heard of Dominion because that company has gotten a lot of press. In Florida, the vast majority of our counties run ES&S, a few run Dominion. This was a letter that was sent by a federal agency called the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. It's an organization under the Department of Homeland Security who is tasked, one of his tasks is to manage test laboratories to certify this election equipment. Now, my personal opinion is they don't do a great job of doing that to begin with. But that really here is beside the point. They sent a letter to the senior vice president of ES&S and told him that they've been notified that the model that they've sold to counties across the country has a cellular modem, and that component was never certified or tested by one of the federal test labs, and that's a violation. And in my view, and I will tell you, there's several of the other 13 candidates who believe the same, Tim, that should invalidate any election in which these tabulators were used, because
you can't have an election if the equipment is not certified. That's what I understand. Isn't that correct? How can you?
However, the EAC says if you get your own state to certify it, that's okay. So the state of Florida certified them, but the Secretary of State has testified before a state congressional committee that he has no cybersecurity experts on his staff. So I want to know, how do you test a cellular modem with no cybersecurity employees on your staff? So how did Florida certify this thing when the EAC never certified this thing? So technically, they can use these machines, but if the federal testing lab didn't approve it, we object. Most of us, our 13 Supervisor of Elections candidates, object to this. What's the interesting thing about this is that the ES&S came back with their response, and their response was, okay, we'll change the marketing materials so we don't mention the cellular modem anymore. And you know what the U.S. Election Assistance Commission said? They said, okay, that's fine. Just change your marketing materials. You guys are good to go. So that is unbelievable bureaucracy at its best, letting things slide. So I just wanted to bring this up to your viewers so that you understand that these tabulation and technology companies get away with so much because they have so much influence, and they're backed by lobbyists in Tallahassee or all across the country that stand behind them to make sure that they stay in business and continue to provide this product and service to the states. It's almost like a cartel. It's not like a teachers union or the military industrial complex, but we have our little organization of government and private, a little oligarchy here in the election space.
We're back live now with Dave Schaffel from Collier County.
Thanks, Mike. I'm going to move on to another topic. Most of your viewers will not have not seen that most of our local election offices in the United States, and certainly in the state of Florida, are supported by the Department of Homeland Security. In fact, they use hardware and software that is provided under the umbrella of the Department of Homeland Security for their intrusion detection and their threat detection for their internal networks. The organization that manages that is called CISA, which is the cybersecurity infrastructure and security agency. And this was all started with Barack Obama going out the door as president in 2017. They declared our elections a critical infrastructure. They did this, I believe, for nefarious purposes. It allowed them to begin to push the federalization of our elections down through the states into our localities. And what they did was they created an NGO called the Center of Internet Security. It's an NGO, non-government organization. They're not subject to public records requests. They're the organization that did the dirty work for these folks to go to all the supervisors, most of them across the country, and market this thing and tell them, you can have this for free at a steep discount if you install it on your networks. 98% of them did. Now the Department of Homeland Security, CISA, has a direct line into our local election offices. And the information that's going in and out is being reviewed in a data silo under this not NGO called the Center for Internet Security. And I'll tell you, Mike, they claim it's just for intrusion detection. There's no question in my mind, there's more going on there. That information going back, and it includes election night. This is 24/7, and this NGO is looking at all the data packets coming out of our election office, and they're inspecting them. And I'll tell you, I don't trust the Department of Homeland Security to protect our border. They are the agency responsible for censoring Americans who wanted to talk about or had a different opinion on the 2020 election. They have lost all credibility with me, and I do not believe that they should be in our local election offices, even just from a constitutional standpoint. So this is what the center looks like. These are the analysts who work for the NGO. This is what they're doing. This is the ISAC group. These are the data analysts looking at your local county data. This is what
I'm sorry, I can't go back to that image. That looks like a drone room center. I'm sorry. Wow. You're telling me that those people are monitoring and they're a non-government organization that has internet access to our elections. That just looks nefarious to me.
Yeah. Again, this is an organization that's been hostile to certain political beliefs, certain to what I believe is half the population. They have lost any goodwill that myself and many of us have had for them. So they get no benefit of the doubt from me, Mike. This is what the device looks like. This is the actual server, the sensor, the Albert sensor, which is what it's called. This is what resides on the inside of the network that allows that interface to happen. This is a copy of the purchase agreement. This is another public records request where we got the purchase agreement for this Albert monitoring device here in Collier County. These are additional terms and conditions. There are things like, if you want to make any change on your internal network, you better notify the Center for Internet Security, this NGO, before you do it. And you need to give us 30 days notice and tell us all about your network. There's all kinds of stuff in there that violates your local sovereignty. Again, some more information there on the Albert sensor. And that's about it on that, Mike. I wanted to bring that up because especially in Collier County, what's interesting is that we are a constitutional Bill of Rights county in Collier. Our county commission in 2023 voted that we are a constitutional Bill of Rights county. And a lot of that came out of the COVID crisis, where the mandates and the masking and the lockdowns. No, Collier County is not going to accept that anymore. We are a constitutional Bill of Rights county, and I am committed to getting this device removed and return our network and our technology security back to us. We will protect our own network here. We do not believe that this device is constitutionally granted by the federal government to manage our elections here in Collier County. And it's another one of my pledges that this will be replaced by another solution that we can get on the private market.
Wow, this has been really interesting. We appreciate your share. I understand, and I think it's most important to your supporters and voters. I understand that your election is August 20th in the primary, that your election is going on right now in early voting, and your election day is on August 20th. And so that's the message we want to get to the good citizens of Collier County. And then I'd like to also make sure I give a plug for those people that want to find out more information about your campaign and candidacy to go to your website, Schaffel for supervisor.com. I'm going to spell that SCHAFFEL supervisor.com.
That's great, Mike. I really enjoyed being on here with you. You're a great host, and I hope your audience learned a little bit about election integrity here today.
Well, if you could summarize your campaign here in this last minute, we'd like to sign out with your endorsement, and we're going to get this out to all the viewers ASAP. So take it, you got it. Close us.
Thank you, Mike. Remember, it's not just running smooth elections. Most of these supervisors who are in office, they're administrators, Mike. They think running a smooth election is all that it is. No, we are 100% dependent on technology, whether you like it or not, most of it by statute. And these administrators do not care to understand what's happening behind closed doors. It's as if they're a bank president with the vault open. You can run a great bank, but the vault's open, they're going to steal the money eventually. That's what we're dealing with. That's why I am running, because I'm going to make sure the vault is locked. Election integrity is all about voters, votes, and counts. And if those are not valid and those are not audited, you do not have a valid election. I'm going to be doing everything in my power to mitigate all the risk that is involved in all three of those aspects of our elections. I hope the voters of Collier County come out and support me. I've gotten great support, Mike, and we've got tremendous momentum in this race. And I'm really looking forward to being the next supervisor of elections in Collier County.
Dave Schaffel for Supervisor of Elections, Collier County. Again, that website is Schaffel for FOR supervisor.com. Another one of our 13 Florida Supervisor of Election Patriot candidates, and his election is August 20th. Be there. Thank you, Dave, for joining us, and God bless America.
Thank you, Mike.